Everything Was Awesome is part of Courts and Parts, a podcast network featuring pop culture, TV, movie, and geek podcasts. Check out some of our other shows, like TV Ate My Brain, Let's Chat with Revelin Friends, and Podstalgic at courtsandparts.com.
Awesome. Just tell people they're awesome and mean it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Awesome.
Did you have an awesome time? Did you drink awesome shooters and listen to awesome music and then just sit around and soak up each other's awesomeness?
Awesome. 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 That was awesome. You guys are awesome.
No.
You're awesome.
No.
You are awesome.
Sir, you are awesome. Seriously.
Awesome. Awesome. Awesome.
Everything is awesome.
Welcome to this bonus edition of Everything Is Awesome. I am your host, Kev.
I'm your guest, Mike.
And this is the show where we sit down and talk to awesome people about awesome things. Where this bonus episode is covering Wizard World. But from the flip side of things, normally podcasts and news outlets cover the show itself, like the guests and what's going on there. I happen to know a guy that had a table there, and that's Mike, my partner in crime, my heterosexual life mate, my
The J to your Bob.
the J to my Bob.
Speaking of which, Bob was there.
The cosplayer.
The cosplayer Bob. He was awesome.
Did he not talk?
He did not talk. I was
Did
like,
you try to get him to talk?
Yeah, I said you could say no ticket, and he reached into his his jacket pocket and he pulled out like a plastic bag and it had a ticket in it. He had his ticket, so.
He could have gave the Chasing Amy speech. I would have been impressed if he did that. Where
he looked the part very
That's
much.
funny. That's cool.
I'm obviously taller than
Kevin Smith.
but yeah.
Yeah, I think Kevin Smith is probably around your height, maybe a little shorter.
Yeah, he was more like maybe a little taller than you. I mean, he was a tall silent.
Tall Bob.
Yeah, tall Bob.
But so you had a table. So what's
Two tables technically.
well? So how did the gaming area work? Because you also sponsored the gaming area.
Yeah, we were the only sponsor in the gaming area besides like the big dogs like Tekken and Smash Brothers and stuff like that. We were the only one that had like the vertical banner by a table.
Now, were you allowed to have more than one banner if you wanted it, or
we could have,
but it had to be near your table?
Yes. We could have had a second banner, but we would have had to pay an extra $500.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for Philadelphia, which is considered a tier 1 city. It's $1,000 for two banners.
Which let me tell you, and I mean, I didn't say anything when we recorded our show because I didn't want to anger any Wizard World fans, but like compare. I mean, it came together last minute, and I read an article. The guy who's running it now, I don't know if he's running all of Wizard World or just like the convention scene. He mentioned that like things came together kind of late for Philly. We feel bad about that. Like we want to try to make those announcements earlier. But he's only been in charge of the convention scene since like 2016.
Okay, and they've been around for 27 years.
Yeah.
Right? So I don't want to ruin relationships with anybody for me because I'd love to go back next year. We're already talking about like what we could do to do it better and everything like that. But
dude, you can't ruin anything. You're gonna give them money. They're gonna accept you.
But what I'm saying is, if I'm about to tell you what I'm about to tell you, they might not want me. There was like a pitchfork meeting in the morning. Like it did not go well. Every one of the artists, most of the people by the end of Sunday probably made their table back. But there were a lot of people who were saying like they were in the red on Sunday morning. And,
oh, wow.
And at the end of Saturday, that's a huge deal.
Yeah.
And Philadelphia being a tier 1 city is also a huge...
So I haven't been to Wizard World. I think the last time I went to Wizard World was when it was still a 3-day event.
Yeah.
And there was a ton of foot traffic there. You've been to Wizard World way more frequently than I have.
Yeah, I think this would have been our third.
Did it seem like less people were there overall?
I don't really think that it was less people. In fact, they even said it was more ticket numbers up over last year. He amended it to say something about like I meant the year before last year. But I think it was still around those numbers, even without the celebrities.
They had a huge bill last year. I mean, they had like a lot of the Avengers, all the Avengers maybe. I don't know, but they had a lot of Arrow was there.
It was a real that was two. Well, he was at 2016
as well.
The last one we went to was Haley Atwell, Steve ML, It was. I loved it. I loved it a lot. This one, I really didn't feel like the need. Like
Sunday.
I didn't feel bad being on the table.
I had an issue not going because I wanted to be there to support you, but like it was just because I wasn't going to be spending my whole time at the Tellest table.
Yeah.
Like I had a hard time, even though it's only like $40-$50. I had a hard time saying, "Let me spend money on that." And Sunday was the best day, I think. Like I was looking at the schedule, and there was a Doctor Who panel. There was a Gene Grey.
Famke Janssen.
Yeah, Famke Janssen.
I love how you can't get names. Like names. Like she might as well be a Game of Thrones character.
Yeah, basically. She had a panel. Jesse Eisenberg, which was probably one of their biggest hits.
He's apparently real tiny too.
Oh yeah, he looks tiny.
The people who were walking around were like, "Yeah, we saw Jesse Eisenberg. He's real short," and they were short, telling me that. So,
but I mean, like that looked like an interesting panel. Like, I would have gone to see that. But the Sunday panels looked like the best, and then the other panels were all like, you had to either have a 4-day ticket or have the special Horror Fest badge, because like I would have loved to seen some of the people doing those Q&As, but they were all part of the Horror Fest.
And that's weird. I think.
I don't think that's something. I think that's something they did special this year.
Yeah, well, they're saying that all their shows are going to be Horror Fest shows. And I think going forward, they're trying to do something for horror. They're trying to do something for anime. There were people who were going like, my brother was in the bathroom at one point, and he heard someone saying like, "This is it's supposed to be Comic-Con. There's so many people here with their freaking novels," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, guys."
But you know what? I guess on face value, that's what Tellest is. But like,
that's as comic book as it can get.
The way because you were still listed as a sponsor for our podcast that we did. The way I described it, was it's when fantasy meets superheroes.
Yeah, and I was telling people, depending on, I mean, it was a different pitch for different customers. But like if a dude came up and he was wearing like an Avengers shirt, you bet your ass I was saying it's medieval superheroes.
Yeah.
He obviously likes fantasy because he's coming up to books that clearly look like fantasy. Yeah. But it does have like a comic book kind of bent when you look at the images. Like Leo has a very comic book kind of style.
Yeah. I mean, I would say like the covers also. I mean, the covers look like traditional novel covers, but I can see his work working really well in a comic book as well. But I can see where people can. But you know what? That's always like there's always random vendors out there, like who. Like, I bet you the majority,
doing, like the pearl beads and stuff like that.
A majority of the people that were there were comic book artists and writers, like in Artist Alley.
Yep.
I mean, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, you had a lot of people doing stuff. I think part of the problem was there was a lot of empty space there, and a lot of people thought that empty space looked like the floor was misused. A lot
of empty like vendor space.
That too. Like there was a spot in between me and the next guy over. We were both fantasy writers, and there was just an empty table. And then some guy came up and just went like, "Hey, you guys all right if I sit here?" He was there with somebody else, and he happened to have his own stuff, so he got a free table essentially.
Oh wow!
I don't know if
shut up.
if he would have been like an asshole and somebody would have said something, they might have kicked him out.
Oh, absolutely.
Speaking of vendors getting kicked out, there was apparently a person who was there, or a company or whatever, that I guess my guess is they said that they sold toys, but they did not specify to what kind of toys, and they were of the adult variety. Wow. Which
I have to assume it was a big no-no.
Yeah. It existed for all of Thursday and maybe part of Friday. But yeah, they got evicted. My guess is they did not get their money back.
No, I'm sure that's part of like the paperwork. I'm sure you signed something or agreed to something.
Yes, I think it was White Rabbit, like the big company.
That was a dumb thing that you could do that though.
Yeah, I mean, maybe they thought like, hey, even if we do get kicked out, like it's good publicity. Or something like that.
So I want to treat Tellest and Quantum Quest. God damn, I can't talk today. That's the issue I had yesterday. It was like just way out. I don't know if it was because like
you were hypnotized by.
It's what a magical conversation with him. Like, and Garrett was when I was talking to Garrett before the show. I was like, I'm just gonna call him the wrestler guy. No offense. And Ophidian was there. He's like, no offense. I'm just gonna call you the wrestler, man. I'm not into wrestling. And
I thought he was.
No, but
it's It's Party 1. It's Jeff Storm.
Yeah. Jeff Storm is the big Chikara guy. But by the end of that interview, Garrett was like, I'm sold on Chikara because it's very comic booky. And I don't explain it well at all.
It's like classic WWE, like before.
But like even more comic booky too.
Yeah.
And it's as much love as because I can't explain it well, so I usually go to Jeff or point people to Jeff to get a good love of Chikara explanation. As well as he explains it, listening to Ophidian describe it was amazing.
Yeah.
And
he never drops character the entire time.
Well, I mean, so there's definitely Ophidian the wrestler, if he a heel. And I think he plays a heel in the ring, but he's Ophidian the Cobra just every day of his life.
Yeah.
And he and I think I noticed eye black on his nose and around his eyes, so that because the mask you can kind of it's like the mesh.
That mesh. Yeah.
So you can kind of see through it if you you're up close and personal with him. So he even blacks out some stuff.
He makes sure.
He's and I told him, it was one of the first times I was like, I think we can all agree that wrestling's fake, but you are I don't know if this is all Chikara, but you kayfabe it to the nth degree. You don't break character. He got married wearing the mask.
Okay.
Well, because people know he's known. His wife is known to be married. I think her name's Katie something. But she's married to Ophidian, so if you know,
to his first
I'm sure in real life it's.
but I mean, they don't say oh blah 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 and blah blah blah.
Yeah, people there's
but
people before they were together married, there was pictures of them together. So if you see her with Ophidian and then see her with someone without a mask on, you can put two and two together.
Gotcha.
So I'm telling you, that is some dedication. That is nuts to me. Mm-hmm. Not nuts in a bad way, but nuts in a cool, crazy
weird,
way.
Because I'm assuming they don't have kids.
No, not yet.
Because that's going to be weird. Your kid only sees a mask.
I assume kids are when they retire. Yeah. And he doesn't have to anymore. Anyway. So pitchforks at the meeting.
Yeah, pitchforks at the meeting.
And this is where I was going with it. So Tellest and Quantum Quest will count as separate. Mm-hmm. So Tellest, you technically broke even or made a little. You went green.
Based on what we just saw with the receipt, I kind of didn't make it. I was only off by about $30.
Oh, that's not bad.
No, I mean, and when you consider if you would have taken out the other two people who were predominantly at Quantum Quest. I mean,
I would absolutely count that as a Quantum Quest.
$20 less. So really, I was up $100.
That's not bad,
considering what we did.
Yeah. Because I would say that that money that you spent specifically for Quantum Quest is all part of marketing.
Yes, exactly. So, I agree the same way. Now, mind you, we didn't sell back we didn't make enough money to account for product, to account for parking, to account for hotel. And
did you stay at a hotel down there?
Yeah, we had a hotel for 3 nights. Rhiannon and I only stayed 2 nights. We let Matt stay there with his buddies one night. And his buddies were there with us on Friday and Saturday. They were helping explain the game and everything. But, I mean, as bad as it was for us, you got to think about the people who are there from New York, from Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
The guys next to us, they make decent amounts of money on a typical convention. And I was looking at when they were tallying up, and we actually made just under what they made. But
I want to even count your I would say you were in the green for the day or for the weekend because
I definitely
that product's going to last you a couple conventions.
Oh yeah,
if you do more than just Wizard World, if you go to the next con or whatever.
So our next one, we definitely after seeing what happened with Quantum Quest, not necessarily Tellest. Tellest was great. I got a super fan who came back and got all the books.
Well, I'm an admin on the Tellest page still.
You saw all the pictures,
and I saw not just that, but I saw a couple new likes come rolling in, and I was I assumed from that.
I would have to guess that it came from those. So
because it didn't seem like anyone was interacting or anyone that joined that interacted with the photos, it didn't seem like they were someone that, and I could have easily checked to see if they were a much friend of ours.
Yeah, and it wasn't. It was someone who was brand new to me. I guess brand new to Rihanna. Maybe 1 or 2 people outside of the con saw how much attention the posts were getting, because the posts were getting 70 likes, 80 likes, and stuff like that. I think most people didn't realize how much I had until like we posted the picture of the table.
Yeah.
With, all the books, the banner, the bowl, the game.
Yeah, it's so from a vendor side, obviously you're sitting there the whole time.
Yeah, I mean there was someone there at the table the whole time. The only time that we did something as a group on Sunday morning at like 9:15, there was an escape the room on site.
I heard about that. Yeah, I heard about that.
It was a small escape the room. It was only 10 minutes.
Yeah.
It was $8.50 per person.
Oh, that's pity that they charged.
Well, I mean, it is what it is. But because we were vendors, we were able to go in early. So Rhiannon, me, Matt.
Oh, is that before the floor opened for the public? That's cool.
So we went in for 10 minutes and everything, and something about 10 minutes makes it like even more like we got to move quick.
Now, does it seem like they made it simpler, given the time?
I'm sure that like if it would have been a 60-minute thing, it would have been more puzzles, and you would have needed one puzzle to finish another puzzle a little more.
So it wasn't that it was simpler; it was just less puzzles.
Yeah, and it was a little bit more. So the ones that you went to one with me, and
we did
the office.
No, I didn't do the office. I did the dig. Yeah.
So the dig was probably the most of the two that I did. It was the more physical of the two. The one in the office was kind of just like letters and puzzles and numbers and stuff like that. But this one, you needed two people to solve a lot of the puzzles.
Oh, that's cool.
I don't want to talk about it because I'm sure they'll do it in the future. But you definitely needed like two people to help out and everything like that.
So vendor side again is just basically a lot of sitting though, because someone always has to be at the table when the floor is open. Yeah,
I mean technically you don't have to. Like I could have talked to the guy next to me, Jesse Blumfeld and his dad Richard Blumfeld, I guess. I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but he does like fine art prints of like pop culture and everything. Really cool artist, and we both traded something at the end of the day. He gave me one of his prints of it's all time travel references.
Yeah, cool.
So like Terminator, Doctor Who, Bill and Ted, stuff like that, and Back to the Future, of course. And then I gave him Tales of Tellest because it's about the same value. We could have turned to them and been like, "Hey, do you mind watching our table? We're going to go try and see if we can grab a bite to eat." So I think for all of 10 minutes there was nobody at the table. We were in line of sight to the table because we were right at the food court. But for the most part, like we didn't want to eat at the table. We didn't want to talk on our cell phones at the table. We wanted to try and stay engaged with the customer as much as possible.
So the only interaction with like Big Brother was Thursday morning meeting?
Well, there was a Thursday afternoon, like at noon, there was like hey, like welcome, here's what's going on. That was like in the process of load-in. So on Wednesday you can actually drive your car.
Yeah, what was load-in because you didn't get to do that?
Yeah, so we didn't drive in. So on
Thursday that had to be morning, a pain in the ass, right?
It wasn't that bad. Well,
did you have like a wagon or something?
Here's what made Thursday interesting. So we did have a dolly. We had both cars stacked up because it was a lot of stuff. We had the T-shirts. We had all the books. I mean, we had 450 books. It was a lot of books.
Yeah.
So we had the dolly, the books, the T-shirts, bookmarks, stickers, stuff. Just we had our luggage that was in the cars. So we actually went up into the loading dock, which is in back of. It's on Vine Street, essentially. So you go up this huge, long ramp, and you park, you start making your way in and everything, and you register there for your wristband. So we only had 3 people with us at the time. It was me, Brianna, and Matt. And Lola, Erica, she wanted to, meet us there by taking a train, and then, basically walking to the convention center. Now, here's the problem. Load-in was explained very well, but not what to do if your 4th person arrives.
Did you ask her?
Well, yeah, we asked when we were there. Like we were like, okay, can we grab her and bring her in? Well, sure, you can grab her and bring her in. So I go down to the security guard who it's a completely different company. He won't let her up. So we end up having to go out Vine Street. Now, meanwhile, they won't let us get to our table. We know what table number we have and everything, but they won't let us walk over and start unloading. Because we don't have all 4 people.
Oh, really?
So Thursday morning was a shit fest because...
Oh, well, that's good to know for next year. They should have... Maybe that was
we should have just picked her up somewhere.
That was probably in fine print somewhere.
Well, no one had mentioned anything anywhere.
Yeah.
And the problem, it was... The security guard was a different company. There was like 3 different companies.
But I think it's kind of booty that you need all 4 there to unload.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like...
So we had to bring her to the front of the convention center, bring her up, bring her through, and then right to the same place, right to registration. And so the security guard, he said, the reason that she can't come up is because she didn't have a wristband. I'm like, we drove up in cars. You didn't see if we had wristbands. So it was like he was getting really like pissed off. And I understand. Like there are people like going around.
I'm sure the dude was like, I get paid $10 an hour for this.
It was bad. I have to tell you about Sunday too, but that's at like the end of our conversation. So Thursday we unload and everything, and then we go and park the cars and everything, find our hotel. Once we set up the first time, like it was fine. There was no problems the next day. The only thing that we did was lay the books down and put a second tablecloth over our table. So load in, I'm sure like big vendor booths like Wade's, they have like
product. Did you see Wade's there?
Yeah, we saw Wade.
I saw a picture. I saw Wade.
And Waski was there too, but
I think I don't know if he still works for them every now and then.
Well, he wasn't with Wade's. He was with somebody else.
Oh, his brother
or something.
His brother has a thing in Newtown. They sell like Funko Pop toys.
Yeah, so he was there on Saturday. I don't know if he was there on Sunday, but there was a couple of people who I saw via social media were there, and like based on the layout of the thing, I never saw them. So Waski, I'm sure he was in whatever exhibitor booth the whole time, and then the girl actually Stephanie from Woods, she was there. She worked in not HR, whatever that.
Admissions.
Yes, yeah. So she worked over there. She was there as Storm on Saturday, or at least she dressed up as it and took a picture. Maybe she didn't even go, but I didn't see her at all, so she wasn't in our neck of the woods. The layout was not great, and that was one of the complaints during the Pitchfork meeting. The celebrity area was like dead center, like in back of like the entertainment stage.
Did they still have it like kind of blocked off, where like unless you had VIP tickets?
No, I mean, so it was weird. Like you could walk up to the to that central area, and I only saw like a couple people there from time to time. Like I saw Lou Ferrigno, he was there front and center. A couple of the voice actors were there, and then a couple of times, like they had like the blue booths, like they used to have. They were kind of off center, but pretty much there. But you really didn't see anybody unless like they were over in the corner in the photo area.
You know what I think one of the issues with Wizard World is that it has become, I think, less fan friendly. Like,
especially trying to change that.
Especially in the wake of like Heroes and Villains Fan Fest, Walker Stalker Con. Like Walker Stalker Con, and I think Heroes and Villains Fan Fest are run by the same people.
Yeah.
And they don't do press passes because it's for a fan experience. So you can come and buy a ticket, and if you want to try to score an interview, you can.
Yeah.
But the people are there for the fans.
For the most part, I mean, this did seem like, and that was one of the things in that Sunday morning meeting where they were like, we're trying to make it a better fan experience because numbers have been trickling down since 2, 3, 4 years ago, however it was. So the numbers are the highest they've been, but that did not translate well for artists and exhibitors. Which kind of, it depends. I don't know what next Philly is going to look like for these guys because, a $375 table doesn't look that appealing to you if, you're supposed to treat Philly like a tier 1 city, but it felt like a tier 2, tier 3, we had a lot of numbers there, and for the sake of the Quantum Quest, we did remarkable, I think, 47 signups. We had people who went back to play it more than once. We had people who were complaining that we didn't have it for sale.
Yeah, that's I think the coolest thing that came out of
I
your
feel
news.
like every time we've done like a little bit more with the game, like you remember when like I was telling you about the game. And
I mean I remember you. I think it was just you and Rihanna were kind of kicked around some ideas, and then you and me played it at Red Robin.
Red Robin, yeah. But I was pitching the idea to you, and you're like, I don't get it.
Yeah, because it was hard to see. And it was.
And then we played it with index cards with no pictures.
Yeah.
And just words.
And it was even it was a different game then. Still.
Yeah, it's moved, it's grown, and stuff like that. And we definitely took people's feedback over time. People love that you tell them it's a game where you're screwing over your friends. Like, they love it.
Yeah, well, I think it's stuff like that, like, you know, Cards Against Humanity, or even, like, Noisy Person cards.
Yeah.
Where it's not, like, I mean, you are kind of screwing your friends over because you're the judge in NPC, so you can, like, oh, well, I don't like, you did something foolish, and I think it was foolish. But, yeah, games like that where you can kind of throw people under the bus, or you can just have fun with your friends.
And one of the other things that really went over well, I don't know if we had this when we played last, and in like way back in December it is now, but the haunting mechanic, were you around for that?
No.
So when you're playing with more than 2 people, when you die, in most games, you're out. Like, that's it.
Yeah.
You're done. I'm out of character.
That's a good idea.
So now, if you die, you keep the rooms that you were in, and then if somebody lands in that space, you deal double damage to them.
Oh, so, that's interesting.
So, and you can decide whether or not you want to do double damage. So it's, you know.
So how long?
You killed me. I'm going to kill you.
So now that ran for, I guess, like, what, 10-hour days? 12-hour days?
I mean, it was depending on what day it was. Like
well, like Friday, Saturday were all day.
Yeah, Friday, Saturday, that was a 9 and an 8-hour day, I think.
Oh, really? That's it?
Yeah. Nothing was a 10-hour day, I think. So
okay.
Sunday was 7 hours. It was 10. No,
okay.
Sunday was 6.
So we'll say average 8-hour days.
Yeah.
How many times was that game played?
I would assume. My guess is they had every single person sign up, so it was over 47 times.
So has based off of that, is there, like, what's the average game time? Do you know? Did Matt figure that out?
I think Matt had the game canned, basically. So it was the cards that were on the table were the cards that everybody played with.
Okay.
So for that in mind, it was probably between a 20 and 30-minute game. But he did let, there was a couple of guys who played it 2 or 3 times, and they were like, Matt asked, you know, like, do you have any feedback for us? And they were like, our only feedback is let us play with the actual cards. So Matt opened up the entire deck. They could play with whatever card. And they noted, like, a lot of the reason that we did it that way was because there's cards that we don't even really like 100% anymore. Like,
I know there was a couple that from our session in December.
And they made mention of that and everything. But that game, I think, only lasted about 40 minutes.
Yeah, I think, like, to make that, you need to tighten it up.
Yeah, but
a little bit.
When you're explaining it as Fantasy Monopoly, that kind of, I think that mindset gets people going, all right, well, it could be a longer game.
And seeing the pictures at Comic-Con, how you guys had it set up, because it was set up like Monopoly.
Yeah, with the square in between.
Yeah.
Instead of the
versus
2 rows.
the 2 or 3, 4 rows or however many rows it was. I like that idea a lot better.
Yeah, it's cleaner. You know, it's there's just something about it that it played well with people. People really liked it.
Did Matt do both ways with the setup?
No, we only did it that way, that we had it on the tables.
Because it's interesting, you know, my thought process now at that point is, well, why cards and not a game board? And I know it's like just like the mechanics behind it as far as like, or like the logistics.
Yeah.
That's true, the randomness.
Oops, excuse me. Yeah, I mean, the idea is that the board always changes, like every single game you play.
That's a good point.
I mean, we were talking, like, we were floating the idea at one point of doing a deluxe game where, like, it was set up with multiple, like, the whole 40 cards or whatever.
Well, yeah, and I think, like, if you get a play mat involved, like, I don't know. Now, what do you think, because what are you, do you know if your timeline for Kickstarter is, like...
We accelerated it now.
Yeah, I was going to say
because of that, and
because people are going to forget quick.
Yeah, I mean, we have them all on our newsletter and everything now for Quantum Quest. But what we decided...
How do people like the website, huh?
Well, they didn't sign up there. We signed them up on paper. But, so the main reason that I think we're accelerating it is because we want to have the game ready for next year's Comic-Con. So that we can actually make sales.
It would be nice to have, like, if this is alpha, have, like, the official beta ready for PAX Unplugged.
And that's definitely what we're trying to do. I mean, it's going to be official as much as it can. Like, the cards will be finalized, but it will probably be by the game crafter instead of Panda.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like having a, hopefully having all your cards that you don't like weeded out.
Yes, exactly.
Replacing them if need be.
Now, our representative from Panda is trying to get me to go to Gen Con in August.
Oh, really?
Gen Con is in Indianapolis.
Well, and that might... Well, I guess maybe vendors can still sign up. Jeff Stormer is going to that.
Well, you can go even just to play test. Like, you can go and sit down at a table and say, like, hey, I got to...
Oh, you don't need to get a vendor table. You can just get...
No, and I mean, we could have done that here, too. Like, one of the guys that I went to college with was there just by happenstance. He's doing his...
Well, I saw a lot of game tables there with just stacks of board games. Like,
so we ended up meeting up with a guy from Chicagoland Games in Chicago. They are the guys that go with Wizard World to all these events. Wizard World pays for their space. Well, I mean, I guess they
get free space.
Yeah. So they get 10,000 square feet for free. They pay for their shipping, for the travel costs and everything. So they go to every one of these shows. So we ended up, making friends with, the guy who's given us all the advice. He's saying, go do Kickstarter here. Don't get a booth at PAX because you don't have any merchandise. Just get a table or two. Do the same thing you did here, but have it ready so that people can say, "I'm ready to play this game. I'm ready to spend money." And then
Yeah. I mean, I guess you could do pre-orders, but
well, we're hoping to have the Kickstarter running during PAX.
For PAX. Yeah. Oh, that's a good idea.
So, and with that in mind, I think when we had talked to Chris at Boss Monster, he was saying it was around 6 months to go from point A to point B, well, point Z, I guess, for the people to actually get their game. We want to at least have our game in hand for PAX. For Comic-Con 2018, which is now 2 or 3 weeks earlier. It's in May of next year.
Jesus Lord.
So,
but I'm trying to think. I think when I used to go.
It's always been around those.
It was in
area.
May. It was in mid-May, I believe.
They definitely don't want to be. I'm sorry, I keep on jumping in real quick because I know we're running low on time.
Yeah.
I know that they're trying to not overlap with any other big shows.
Yeah.
Oh, it's raining out. So yeah, they moved it up. I'm guessing because there's other big conventions around that time.
In Philly or in this area?
Not in this area, but they want to make sure that like the vendors who go to Wizard World don't want to go to these other conventions. Because for a lot of people, that's what they do. They do the 26 shows. Now, meanwhile, Wizard World is actually expanding, and they're going to do 40 cities next year. So, I mean, and that's good for vendors, But that's exhausting for the vendors too. I mean, you're on the road all the time, so you have to pick and choose the ones that make most sense to you. And again, like I said, Philly is supposed to be your tier 1 city. There's only two cities that are tier 1: Philly, Chicago. Yeah,
because I think are they the only 4-night cities? No, I don't think
so. There's a couple of four-night cities, but and based on the tier, that's how much you spend for your table, and what the customers spend as well.
Yeah, well, and that's. I would say that's my only complaint about Wizard World this year was a couple complaints as a fan is that the late announcements. Mm-hmm. That's why I didn't buy a ticket.
And people dropped off too.
Yeah,
Paul Bettany dropped off.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he didn't. He was not there. I think we found out he dropped on Thursday.
But you know what? I don't fault the start. I mean, that's something might come up.
Sure.
Whatever. There's if it's something shady, then whatever contracts I'm sure will Paul Bettany will get his if he wronged Wizard World.
Sure.
But I'm sure it's just things happen. I get it. Whatever. All I'm asking for is you announce these guys you book early enough to where I can. And your panels and stuff, so that I can buy my tickets ahead of time. And if people start dropping off, okay, then at that point, I don't know what the return policy is. I'm assuming you can probably return up to 2 weeks before the event or something.
Probably.
But that way I can make a decision if I don't want to go. But that was a big complaint. And then also just compared to Walker Stalker and which has been which is expanding from just Walking Dead to pretty awesome names in the horror world, which is why I think Wizard World is doing a horror fest thing now.
Yeah. But there wasn't a huge amount of names there for horror. I mean, they had the Buffy folks and stuff like that. I wonder if a big part of this was. I mean, you said that there is a new guy, and maybe.
Well, but I think he booked Philly's show last year.
Yeah, and last year was a pretty good show.
Yeah, so it's just, I don't know. And like, Heroes and Villains Fest and Awesome Con down in D.C. or Virginia or whatever, like, that, like, Awesome Con has, for me, the lineup that, like, I'm used to seeing at Wizard World. It's just the lineup I want to see.
Yeah.
Which is actually, it's not your Marvel guys. It's a lot of your more, B level guys. Really.
And I love that. Like, I loved seeing, Bruce Campbell. I loved seeing Hayden Panettiere.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve Amell, he's like maybe B+. Him and Haley Atwell.
He's TV. He's TV.
They were fantastic. The was it the Weasley twins? They were there when we went 2 or 3 years ago. That was fantastic.
It's I think your A-list TV people / your B-list movie people, like, that's the perfect people. I don't necessarily want to see Robert Downey
and like
Jr.
Riverdale, they were there and everything, but I don't think Riverdale's big enough.
I would be interested to see what that panel, like the audience size of that panel was.
Yeah.
Because I just don't like that show.
You're running out of time, so I want to real quick jump in and talk about Sunday.
Okay.
Sunday was
another train wreck.
Another train wreck. So Sunday morning, like I said, there was the Pitchfork meeting. We got there.
This was Sunday. There was another meeting.
Well, it was the only meeting. So Thursday there was a meeting, and that was regular. That was just
the Pitchfork meeting was Sunday.
Yeah, so Sunday.
Okay.
So by Sunday morning, people realized, like, hey man, like, we're not doing a lot of money. Like by the end of Saturday night, like, we knew that something was going wrong. It's my first time exhibiting, so to me, it doesn't look like I can't compare it to anything.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, well, I mean, I'm a first time, novelist here.
Yeah.
This is normal. But the guys next to me, the guys who I talked to, they're like, man, like, we're not really doing good. The guy who did the Gargoyles thing for Rihanna and I, he was like one of the original Gargoyles artists, and he's just constantly got like good stuff. And they were saying, like, for the most part, like, they all started off Sunday in the red. And that is a scary ass thought.
Yeah.
So people are complaining about that. They're complaining about the fact that, like, it's Comic-Con and they're putting a lot of effort, like, on the celebrities, and there really wasn't a lot, like, as we've been saying.
Yeah.
And they're talking back and saying, like, the only way that you're going to get these people is by bringing in.
And I agree with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with having. Yeah. That's how Wizard World has operated since I started going back with Jay in 2001, 2002.
So the layout, I think, was part of the problem, but it wasn't the biggest problem. I think the biggest problem is, for whatever reason, and it might have been because of the cost of tickets, we had tons of traffic, but we didn't have a lot of people buying. Like, I had the reason that I think we did so well. We had a couple of people who bought like a huge amount of books. Tales of Tellest sold really well. The trilogy sold really well.
Did anyone buy like the Tales of Tellest and like the 5 singles, or no?
So we had one woman who bought Tales, the trilogy, and Lord of Thunder and Dragon Speaker, but not the books that were in Tales. But she did say that she wanted to come back and get those 5. We didn't see her after Saturday.
Those 5 books are already in Tales.
So she bought the entire set, essentially. That was like a $98 purchase. We gave her like the swag bag for free and everything like that. Cool. I'm assuming if she likes the books, we'll see her next year and she'll be ready to buy like the next 7 books that come out. And then we had a couple of people who bought like 1 or 2 books. We know which ones sold the best. So The Fall did really well, and Dragon Speaker did really well. And they're both brighter covers. So, I don't know. Nobody like took the time to like read through. We had like demo copies out for people to read. But no one, it was really just judge a book by its cover.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully it does well. We only signed up 2 people for the Tellest mailing list. Like, we weren't really pushing it that much. If we had more table space, like if we didn't have like the Quantum Quest t-shirts up, which we really shouldn't have. We didn't sell them at all throughout the process. Or if we had like a second table. We're actually discussing the idea of maybe having a second table next year, because we're going to have 19 books.
That's such a rough cost, though.
Yeah, but hopefully after this year, number 1, because I went here this year, there's a discount for me next year.
Nice.
Number 2, I don't know if they're going to consider it a Tier 1 city after this year, because it was such a clusterfuck for people. Like I said, the guy next to me, he barely made, what we made.
Well, and the audience members, it was, like I said, it was for one day. It was
$55.
It was on Sunday it was like $45.
Okay, yeah.
And you could have gotten a 20% discount with at least ahead of time.
That's true.
Well, and I think it was $45 online. It was probably $55 at the door.
Yeah.
Which is that's expensive for one day. And obviously they're pushing the 4-day ticket for, I think it's $90 online, probably
I think
close
it
to
was
$100. Yeah, it was $110. Which so obviously they're upselling the single day tickets to make you buy the 4-day.
And I wonder if the reason that they did that was because they were worried that they weren't going to have the high numbers because they didn't have the celebrities. Maybe if they had the full Marvel crew there, they would have been like, all right, well we're going to get 70,000 people or whatever. Now, mind you, they did have the numbers that they had. So one last bit before I get into the final clusterfuck. Philly did not treat Wizard World well at all. The bathrooms were hardly looked at whatsoever.
Oh, really?
There was no paper towels. Nobody was in there cleaning or anything like that. I went, it was crowded, so I went into one of the stalls and someone had shit all over the seat, and I needed to pee so bad that I just, yeah. and I mean, I'm lucky I did not get Comic-Con crud, but I mean they were so pissed off that they actually asked for a reduced fee. But it's not like that translated to anybody else. Good for you.
They get $1,000 back. I expect every vendor to get $1 back.
Yeah. So the final thing. So part of that pitchfork meeting was all right. So we're going to also explain loadout, and the guy's all right. So you're going to basically come up the same ramp that you went through for load in, and we'll have people drive on and that'll be it. What they did not tell everybody was that after the thing closed down at 4, that all the people who were waiting in line were going to have to wait for them to break down the fucking green room for the celebrities. So the first guy who was in line, he probably broke down 5:30, 5:45, or I'm sorry, 3:30, 3:35, and made his way around to the loading dock. He was there for an hour and a half. So Matt and I got out of my car, walked to Matt's car. He handed me a bag of Doritos so that we could eat while we were waiting. I had other cars stopping by asking me if there was a huge accident or something. I'm handing them Doritos. It was a huge mess. I'm glad that I told you get somebody on board for the podcast, because we didn't get home until 7:15.
Oh yeah. Wow. I got back to Levittown before you.
Yeah, it was really bad. And I called the guy up, and the only reason that I had his number was because I was a sponsor. And if you remember me telling you earlier, I was the only sponsor. Yeah. So nobody had this dude's number except for me. And he's like, oh, okay, and he's in charge of exhibitors and artists and everything like that. He's like, oh, I didn't know that you guys were waiting out there. Well, it's going to be a little bit because we're still breaking down the celebrity green room. And this is at 6:45. And meanwhile, we have Rihanna and Erica waiting inside with the stuff. And they've already turned off the air conditioning and everything.
I feel as the sponsor, you guys should have gotten first dibs out. Maybe after the celebs at least.
It is what it is.
It's what.
And the people with the booths, they probably didn't get home until 9 o'clock. Because
I'm sure some of their homes aren't even near here. So.
Yeah. So.
But you're going to do it again.
Yeah, I think we'll do it again. We have a little bit more of our expectations have changed a little bit. Next year, if we have Quantum Quest there, we expect to make back our money for sure on but we'll probably sponsor again.
I would be curious to maybe do something as, if not the Philadelphia Podcasting Society or festival or something, and getting some kickback from that, developing something else, and having a couple podcasters join in on the fun, so that maybe there's 5 podcasters that are sharing the booth for the 4-day weekend. That way we can, because I would be willing to split the cost that way.
Yeah, and you got to figure the Fireside guys there. They were recording on the floor. It wasn't like they had
They had an artist there to man. I saw that they had an artist there to basically man the table, and they weren't there.
Yeah, and they were walking around. At one point, they were at a table in front of me. They were talking to one of the other artists.
I think it would be a neat idea to at least I would talk to one other podcast to probably split the cost of a table.
And if you're splitting it, it's not that bad.
And that way, maybe we have to get an extra 2 tickets like you guys had to or whatever. But I would be willing to spend $250 basically if that's what it looks like it costs if you're going to split a table for 4 tickets.
Yeah, with 4 tickets. Well, with 4 tickets, it's even smaller because I think what was it? We spent $450. So you're doing what, 125
something
per
like
person.
That.
So I mean that's really not that bad, especially for 4 days.
And like
you go around and you do
one
the whole
show
experience.
can man the table, do their thing. The other show can go around and talk and then swap it out.
Yep.
I would be interested in doing something like that. Not getting necessarily an Everything Is Awesome table, but getting like a Philadelphia Podcasting Society table or something. I know what the name would be if it's not that. But
so I think next year it's 2 tables for us. So
that's insane. Hopefully they drop the cost, but
I mean, you figure if Quantum Quest is out at that point, especially if the Kickstarter does well, we'll know what we have on our hands.
That's true. That's true.
But
I'm excited. I know that like the next con I'm going to is PAX Unplugged.
Yeah, you'll be there. We'll be there.
So and
I don't think we're doing a table there. We're just gonna sit down at one of the
meetings. Yeah. I'm hoping. Well, and I'm hoping we applied for some panels to host some panels. We got if we get picked to do our panel about tabletop RPGs or RPGs as a performance art. We have some cool guests lined up, some Philly guys, some Chicago guys.
Stephen
Amell.
He is going to be like the reverse Chris Hardwick.
Oh God, I pray to, he's definitely going to be he's kind of like the Hardwick of cons. Like he goes to a lot of different cons, and I feel like he's the Hardwick of cons, but like super nice.
Yeah.
If listeners don't get that, that's my nice way of saying Hardwick's a dick. Hardwick, dick. All right. Well, this is our Vendor Wizard World coverage because it was more interesting than the show itself. That's not fair. People, I'm sure, wanted to see Riverdale. Not many, but
we have people there who, I mean, and there are certain people who go to those cons specifically because they know some of the artists will be there. Like the guy next to me, like he had people track him down, and they're from Michigan, something like that. So I mean, people knew his work.
I mean, obviously, despite there not being any big names there, they had a crowd still. So, all right, this is our bonus episode. That yesterday you probably heard our fandom. Our fandom bullying episode that we did with the founder of Bullies Keep Out. I
got you so distracted by Jesse's his work. So
that's him?
Yeah, so he did Hurley Quinn, so it's Hurley from Lost mixed with Harley Quinn.
That's fantastic.
And you see the polar bear with
the Joker smile. And then hopefully we have our Wonder Woman review coming out where I'm going to sit down with Garrett Smith from Philadelphia. Nope. I mean, he is Philadelphia. But Garrett Smith from I Like the Movie.
Garrett Smith from Philadelphia. Nope.
I mean, he's at Philadelphia on Twitter. And Casey Spivey from Screen Rant. So we're going to be sitting down chatting Wonder Woman.
From Screen Rant, eh?
Yeah, from Screen Rant. She's also the actress and director. She was in Game of Thrones the musical. She's a host.
Screen Rant's kind of like a pretty big deal, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. She was a previous guest. We've talked to her before. Episode 50-something. All right. For Everything Is Awesome, I'm Kev.
I'm the guest, Mike.
And we'll see you next time right here on awesomepodcast.com. We're also on Core Temp Arts Podcast Network at coretemparts.com. We've been awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Core Temp Arts Podcast Network. To listen to more Core Temp Arts shows, visit coretemparts.com.